Hey everyone, and welcome back for another deep dive. Today we're really zeroing in on OpenAI. And it seems like a lot of you are really interested in this company, and for good reason. We're talking about a company that's kind of at this really interesting crossroads. I mean, they're moving away from those, open source roots that they're known for, and they're really setting their sights on becoming, well, a profit powerhouse.
It's a huge shift.
Yeah, and it could mean some pretty huge numbers down the line.
Definitely huge. And I think it has implications, not just for OpenAI itself, but for like the whole future of AI. This is a big deal.
It is. So let's talk numbers.
Right.
Because, I mean, that's what everyone wants to know. What are we looking at here? And honestly, they're kind of mind-boggling.
Yeah, they are.
We've got reports that OpenAI could be facing a loss, get this, of $5 billion
This year.
this year.
Yeah.
But
It's a lot of money.
it is a lot. But here's where it gets interesting. The projections for the coming years are, well, they're a little different, like a lot different. We're talking almost $12 billion in revenue next year.
It's a pretty remarkable turnaround.
Yeah. And it keeps going. By
Yeah.
2029, we're talking $100 billion.
Yeah. Yeah.
$100 billion. It's hard to even fathom, really.
A lot of zeros.
That's a lot of confidence from investors. I mean, despite these initial losses, they're in the middle of this massive funding round. They're trying to raise like $6.5 to $7 billion. It's clear that these investors, they see OpenAI as, potentially becoming like the dominant force in the AI market, even if it takes a little time.
So they're playing the long game, huh?
Exactly. The long game.
It's interesting, though, because it really makes you think, how does a company balance these, these huge, ambitious goals, these profit-driven goals, with, what they started with, which was something, I don't know, maybe a little more idealistic, open source, sharing, that kind of thing. Can you really do both? It's a tough question, right? Like, can you serve two masters? They are trying to address this. They still have that nonprofit arm. But when you have, investors, and those investors are looking for, returns on their investment, it does make you wonder, could this shift their priorities?
Yeah, I mean, follow the money, right? And speaking of which, let's talk about the competition for talent. Because in the world of AI, I mean, we're talking about some of the brightest minds out there.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, talent is everything in this field. You can have the most amazing ideas, the biggest goals, but without the right people to actually make it happen, it's all just, I don't know, potential, not actual progress.
Right. And right now, OpenAI is dealing with some pretty big names leaving. I mean, their CTO, Mira Murati, just left.
Yeah.
And from what we hear, she's building her own team. And guess where she's looking?
Yeah, it's not surprising, really.
It's like a brain drain. And on top of that, you've got Ilya Sutskever, one of the co-founders of OpenAI. He started his own company, too. And it seems like he's attracting some former OpenAI people as well. How do you compete with that?
It's incredibly competitive right now. And when you have someone like Marathi, someone who is really the driving force behind ChatGPT, when they leave to do their own thing, people notice. It definitely shakes things up. But to be fair, OpenAI is making moves too. They just hired Sebastian Bubek. He's a huge name in AI, came from Microsoft.
So it's a game of chess, like a very high-stakes game of chess,
Yeah.
where the pieces are these brilliant AI researchers.
Exactly. And the stakes are only getting higher.
That's a good point, because, if OpenAI really is shifting away from that open source approach, I mean, what does that mean for transparency? How much of what they're doing is going to be open? How much goes behind closed doors?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? I mean, they still say that they're committed to being open, to sharing their work and collaborating and all of that. But it's true, when you're talking about profits and, potentially huge profits, there's always that temptation to protect what you've got, to keep those trade secrets secret.
So what does that mean for the advancement of AI as a whole? I mean, if OpenAI, which, let's be honest, is one of the leaders in this field, starts becoming more closed off, does that actually slow things down? Do they become the bottleneck?
It's a good question. And there's no easy answer. I mean, the whole open source thing, that was huge for AI. It really helped speed up development, everyone working together, sharing ideas. But on the other hand, there's something to be said about, the profit motive driving innovation. When companies have a real financial incentive to develop new technologies, we see some amazing things happen. It's a double-edged sword, really.
It's kind of uncharted territory.
Yeah.
And it's starting to raise some pretty important questions for all of us, I think. I mean, what happens to transparency as AI becomes more powerful? Who gets to control it?
Those are the questions, aren't they? Because it's bigger than just the technology itself. It's about the values that are driving its development. And
Yeah,
who gets to decide what those values are? And how do we make sure that AI is beneficial for everyone, not just a select few?
exactly. I
Huh?
mean, shouldn't we all have a say in this? So who gets to steer the ship? Is it companies like OpenAI? Do we leave it up to them to decide what's ethical? Or do we need governments to step in, create some regulations, even if it means, maybe slowing things down a little?
That's the heart of the issue right there. It really is. I mean, it's not an easy answer, is it? It's not like, one or the other. We need both, right? We need to encourage innovation, but also, make sure things don't get out of hand. It's going to take everyone working together. I mean, governments, industry leaders, researchers, even just like regular people.
So you're saying we need like a global conversation about AI, like some kind of ethical framework that we all agree on.
I think that's the ideal, yeah. And it's a big ask, I know, especially with how fast things are moving.
It's moving at the speed of light.
Exactly. But we got to start somewhere, right? And for me, it all starts with transparency. If companies like OpenAI are going to be the ones, kind of leading the charge here, they got to be open about what they're doing, the research, how they're doing it, even what doesn't work.
Yeah, no more hiding behind patents and trade secrets.
Right, exactly. And it's not just about being open about the tech itself, it's about access too.
Well, that's a good point.
Because if it's only a handful of, really well-funded companies who are controlling these AI tools, doesn't that just create more inequality?
It's like the rich get richer.
Exactly. And that's where governments need to step up, right? They need to make sure that AI development benefits everyone, fund public research, maybe help people develop those essential digital skills.
Yeah.
Even just thinking about like data ownership in this new world, it's complicated stuff.
No, but it's true. Like, who owns the data? And who gets to decide how it's used?
And what are the rules?
Yeah.
And who makes the rules?
We could talk about this for hours.
Seriously. But the point is, these are conversations we need to be having now. This isn't, some sci-fi future anymore. AI is here. It's happening.
It's happening right now. I mean, it's already impacting our lives every day.
Exactly. And we can't just be focused on, like, the scary what-ifs. I mean, yeah, there are risks. But the potential here is huge. Think about healthcare, education, even something like climate change. AI could help us solve some of the biggest challenges we face.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground here. OpenAI's shift to, I guess you could say, a more profit-focused model, what it means for open source, the battle for, like, the best AI minds out there. And, of course, the big ethical questions that come with all of this. What are, like, the key takeaways here? What do you want people to remember as they, keep an eye on OpenAI?
I think the biggest takeaway is this. We are at a turning point for AI. What OpenAI does next, the decisions they make, they matter. And it's not just them, it's all the companies like them. We all have a role to play here. We have to stay informed, we have to ask the hard questions.
Or you can't just sit back and let it happen.
Exactly. We need to be engaged. We need to understand what's at stake. And we have to demand, that AI is developed ethically, responsibly, and in a way that benefits everyone.
Well said. So, in a nutshell, pay attention, folks, because this stuff matters. But now let's talk about those revenue numbers again. I mean, $100 billion. By 2029, that's just wild. How are they even planning on making that happen?
Right. It's a good question. It's incredibly ambitious. I mean, they're basically saying they're going to dominate, the tech world, like on a level we haven't really seen before.
It's like they're aiming to be the Google of AI.
Yeah, or the Apple or the Microsoft. But bigger, maybe. And to do that, they'll have to do more than just, keep making ChatGPT better. They need to be everywhere. Healthcare, finance, even government.
So we're not just talking about like chat bots and fancy image generators anymore.
No way. They're talking about being the AI solution for, like, everything. It's a bold strategy, that's for sure. But it does make you wonder, can they really pull it off? I mean, they're good at what they do, but can they be good at everything?
Right. Like their expertise is in like, software algorithms, not necessarily like robots or self-driving cars.
Exactly. So are they going to buy up other companies, team up with them? It'll be interesting to see.
Acquisitions, partnerships, new markets. It sounds like OpenAI is about to go through like a growth spurt.
Oh, for sure. And how they handle it, all the challenges, all the opportunities, that's the million-dollar question. But one thing's for sure, OpenAI is going to be making headlines for a long time coming.
It's like we're watching, I don't know, the making of an AI empire or something. But empires, they don't always last, do they? What could trip OpenAI up? What could go wrong?
Well, I mean, getting that big, that fast, it's not easy. They've got to keep innovating, stay ahead of the curve, and they've got to keep those top people happy. You keep them from going to the competition.
Because the competition isn't just going to sit back and watch this happen.
Exactly. And it's not just the companies we know about, right? There could be some new player, some startup we haven't even heard of that comes out of nowhere and just changes everything. OpenAI can't relax. They got to be on their toes.
They can't rest on their laurels. And speaking of things that could disrupt everything, what about regulation? I mean, governments are just starting to figure out this whole AI thing. What happens when the rules change?
Oh, yeah, that's the wild card, isn't it? I mean, depending on how governments decide to regulate AI, it could either, be really good for OpenAI, or it could be a disaster.
Talk about high stakes. So for those of us who are, trying to follow all of this, what should we be paying attention to? What are the signs that things are, on track? Or maybe going off the rails?
Well, for me, it comes down to this. Can they actually make money from this stuff? Can they turn their research, all those algorithms and stuff, into products that people actually want, products that make money? Keep an eye out for new partnerships. Maybe they'll buy up some smaller companies, that kind of thing.
So, are they branching out, moving beyond just chatbots and image generators?
Exactly. If they're going to be the Google of AI, they need to be in all sorts of markets.
And what about the people? Are they keeping those top AI researchers happy? Or are more people going to jump ship?
Yeah, that's huge. Follow the talent. That'll tell you a lot. Because when these brilliant AI people move, it usually means something big is about to happen.
It's like a sign of things to come. Well, this has been amazing. I mean, we've learned so much about OpenAI from their early days as an open source kind of company to, this whole new chapter they're writing. Any final thoughts before we wrap things up?
Just that, this story, it's not over. Not even close. This is just the beginning, really. OpenAI, they're at a crossroads, and what they do next is going to have a huge impact on, well, all of us. So stay informed, keep asking the important questions, and don't be afraid to, make your voice heard. The future of AI, it's not set in stone. We all have a part to play in shaping it.
Couldn't agree more. And that, my friends, is a wrap on another deep dive. Big thanks to all of you for listening in. Until next time, stay curious, stay engaged, and we'll catch you on the flip side.